will do. I'm just kidding. Okay. So here we go. The project narrative. 5 is the review criterion. Is number 5, resources and capabilities. Potential points, 10. 4 to 6 pages, and this one does have associated attachments. So the staffing plan and job description, which is attachment 1. Attachment 2, the biographical sketches of key personnel. And the attachment on your organizational chart, which is the funnest thing you get to do because it's visual. So let's take a look at this. So if you're doing job descriptions, I put in here just an example of Mike Ely's job description that was in our last grant. So if you want his job, talk to Lenora. But just as an example of a job description. Now I know they also talk in the attachment about a staffing plan. And if you want more information on that, check with T. I just gave you an example of how you could write a short job description because it does say in there not to go over 1 page per job description. Okay, so keep it short and concise and only for the key personnel that are managing the grant. Okay, attachment 2, in the FOA, it had a link where you could download this document. And you also have it on your little jump drive. So you can use that to help you. And this is just to fill out the biographical sketch. And on this one it says not to exceed 2 pages for somebody. So try not to go on and on about yourself for more than 2 pages. But you do need to keep this attachment. Okay, so let's see what the FOA defined for the reviewers of what resources and capabilities are. So it's looking for the assurance of project management, that this project is going to happen because you have good project management in place. And it does mention a full-time program manager and a fan rep. And then the second thing, it says, asks you to describe the qualifications and expertise, which is mostly in those 2 attachments, by training or experience. So what you have that makes it that you can carry out this project. Okay, and then it also says to demonstrate the organization's capabilities, the quality and availability of its facilities, and personnel to fulfill the needs and requirements. Okay, so capabilities, facilities, and personnel that demonstrate that you can get the job done. So what we're going to do is weave all of these things together and come up with a little organizational information narrative. So again, I did what I explained to you for the introduction. I looked at where it wrote in the FOA what they expected you to put in the introduction. I looked at the reviewer's criteria and I came up with a way of organizing it. Again, you don't have to do it this way. This is just a suggested idea. So again, an introductory paragraph and introduce you and your program. And then you could talk about the mission and capabilities of, in the FOA, I believe they call it the applicant organization. And then what support exists for institutionalizing EMSC. And then the facilities and services that are provided to you by the applicant organization to help you get your job done. So let's take a look at these. Oh, yeah, again. Keep in mind, this was something that Mike Ely taught us, that sometimes you'll say, and Lenora Olson is going to do this and see her qualifications in attachment 2. But he did mention being careful not to overuse C attachment, because sometimes the reviewer may not read the attachment. So go ahead and state right there, Lenora Olson, PhD, who has over 12 years in EMS, whatever, but go ahead and say something. Okay, so introducing your program. So some things to remember, and this is on page 27 and 35, so you know where I got these phrases. Again, the assurance of project management. And then I have this statement. Describe how key stakeholders, to include the EMSC Advisory Committee, contribute to the ability of the organization to conduct the program requirements and meet program expectations. So these are the highlights again from those pages. And again on page 27, this was in bold. A program manager and fan representative must be named. and a description of the person's background must be provided. So you have to have this for both of these individuals for sure. So some of the key players to mention right away is the project director. Now keep in mind when you read the FOA, this has changed. It used to be called the principal investigator. It's now the project director. Okay, so this is a different title, but it's the same function. A full-time EMSC program manager, the fan rep, your advisory committee, and here's a possible way that you could introduce yourself during this section, is to just come out and say it. Dr. Smith is the project director, and you notice under here it gives some background. He's the medical director for the Bureau of EMS and Preparedness, so you have an idea of his qualifications if you're a reviewer and this is all you're reading. Mary Jane Doe, RN, so I know she's a nurse, which helps with this program. She reports to Dr. Smith, and then you could mention about your family rep. And again, you can tie in the EMSC Advisory Committee right here in your introduction paragraph of this section, that you receive guidance and support for implementing the performance measures, which you love, and the associated activities, and mention what makes up your advisory committee, who is on it. You know, I have a paramedic, I have a pediatric emergency medicine fellow, because that helps round out the idea of what support you have. And you could even here mention an example of how your advisory board helps you. So in this, I just put, for example, during the development of our pediatric offline protocols, you could say something like, the doctors on my advisory committee helped write the protocols, and the paramedic on my committee helped design the size of the book so that they could easily carry it on the ambulance. What other examples do you have in your head that your advisory board has helped you with? What have they helped you accomplish? Joe?
Probably identifying additional resources that we can use for various aspects of the project that may not have been obvious to me.
That's a great one. I mean, that is a lot of value. Again, jot that down in your outline. Identifying, they have helped me to identify key resources. Deb?
Our advisory committee helped get pediatric representation on our EMS board.
Good. That's really excellent again because it's showing that permanence for peds. Very good. Any others? But keep in mind that that helps in your introduction to show that you have more than just 3 people on this grant. You have this advisory committee. And you could mention that they meet regularly and we review the performance measures, etc., etc. Okay, so the mission and capabilities. This became our new mission statement. Burnout was our greatest challenge until we changed our mission statement to chill. This is for Stephanie today. Or those of you who have never written a grant, this can be overwhelming. So, again from the FOA on page 27, it talks about the organization's mission and structure, the scope of the current activities of that applicant organization, and an organizational chart. So some things to ideas are, where is EMSC housed? And where is that organization housed? And what are the responsibilities of the applicant organization? And then how does that benefit you? If you're housed in the Department of EMS, why is that a benefit to EMSC? So an example could be something like this. Utopia's EMSC program has been housed within, blah, 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 for over 10 years and is fully integrated into all aspects of emergency care. The Bureau's mission is to, and just go ahead and state what the EMS Bureau's mission is, and it's on their website. I found Utah's, I went and just looked, EMS Bureau mission statement, and it came up. And then talk about what they're responsible for. So in this case, maybe the EMS Bureau is responsible for licensure of EMS providers, etc. And you could also mention what partnerships they've been fostering or trying to build that helps, again, round out support for you. So the organizational chart, and we tease because Emmy is Mike's initials whenever we do something. So here's his organizational chart. It's got a bunch of overpaid idiots above him and a bonehead at the top. But we know Mike Dean is not one, or Lenore is not an overpaid idiot. This is just an example. Okay, so this was a new idea when I talked to T for advice on doing this section. She mentioned that you might want to think about doing the organizational chart as project focused instead of that the reviewer gets an organizational chart with like 120 little boxes and they see EMSC down here and then you're done. What the reviewer wants to see is that you have the structure to make EMSC happen. So make it focused around the project. So here's an idea that I ran past Tegan and we went back and forth and she thought this was a workable idea, was to put the name of the EMSC program as the main focus and say where it lives. You don't have to say where the Bureau of EMS Preparedness lives and so on and so on and so on. Okay? Just be really succinct. You can put something out to the side that IT and administrative support comes from here. And then under the program, then just give the direct chain of command. Who's the project director? Again, don't write principal investigator. Project director. Who's the program manager, and the fan rep. If your fan rep is paid, then maybe they fall under the chain of command like this. If they're not, you might have to use a dotted line over here. So these are resources that assist you, but are not directly overseen by the program, by your program. So it's really a simple organizational chart, but it's just really clear to the user or reader how this is going to function. And keep in mind that they are looking for these individuals' titles and their function for the grant. So on here we have Dr. John Smith, medical director. So he is the medical director, but he's functioning as the project director here. So if Elizabeth's real title is epidemiologist, she should put epidemiologist. And in parentheses, you could put EMSC. But they want the title that's used when you get your paycheck. So keep that in mind. Okay, so support. They're showing support for the EMSC program. We talked about this. So again, these are some of the phrases on page 27 in the FOA. Is provide information on the resources and capabilities to support. Are you ready for this one? This is a good sentence. I love this one. To support provision of culturally and linguistically competent and health literate services. Wow.
Can you give us a model paragraph to insert, I hope?
So let's think about that one. Yeah, we'll come back. And then it says, describe how the unique needs of the target populations of the communities served are routinely assessed and improved. Okay, so this really has to do with MCHB type objectives. So the fun part, for those of you who know me, is health literacy is also a goal in Healthy People 2020. But do you know what it's tied to? Who knows what one of the things it's tied to? Social media. Your other favorite. Yes. So if you have a social media page, write about that you are reaching out, trying to provide health information in new ways by using social media to spread health literacy. So that is in Healthy People 2020, so go look that up. And culturally and linguistically, we'll talk about that. So here's possibly an example that you could do here. To talk about how the Bureau has been supportive of you. Maybe they've partnered with you to provide grants for equipment for different agencies. Write the things that your applicant organization has helped you do. Does anybody have an example of that? Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, we're doing a translate into Norwegian.
You are.
Just kidding.
There was a small pocket of Norwegian on his thing. Oh no, yeah, I had no idea. Very good. Okay, and then No, any other ideas on that one? How has where you're located helped you to develop something?
We developed a form with our mission and vision and talk about EMSC in South Carolina, and the Department of Health translated it into Spanish and uploaded it to their materials library, which is available to anybody in the state and outside of the state.
Great example. Okay, so because of where you were able to have it translated, and it was also distributed, disseminated through their channels or resources.
Right, but you go into their website to get it.
Right, but they have helped facilitate that. Yeah, so think of those things and mention that. And I put this linguistic support because that's a good way to address cultural, and I know Tony talked a lot about that, anticipate. I mean, maybe there's some effort that's been done to address Hispanic population in Texas.
We're actually working with some of our family representatives who, through other venues, that's what they do. Is they go to public service things in Spanish.
Fantastic idea. Your fan rep. That's a great way to mention your fan rep here. That they have outreach to these cultural dependent target audiences. Okay? Very good. You could also talk about, again, how your applicant organization supports you directly. In this example, maybe you're included in the Bureau strategic plan. I saw this on Utah's strategic EMS plan, that there was a whole thing in there about EMSC. Later, Diane told me that Kristen Gurley wrote that. So that's why EMSC is in there, but it's still pretty impressive that EMSC is in the Bureau's overall strategic plan. And then, does the EMS, whoever oversees you, if you're in the EMS Bureau, how do they support you? How do they follow up on what you're doing? And in this case, this Bureau director participates on the state council to make sure that children are represented. Okay, so facilities and services. This is one of my favorite cartoons. I knew it was going to be towards the end of the day. It says it's bound to happen. The computers can't get anything done without having a bunch of meetings first. We go to meeting after meeting before we can turn on our computer. Okay, so it did say facilities as that key word. So you could just mention briefly, this is probably your shortest paragraph of this section, the facilities that are available to you, and again, the support staff that is available to you. So this was going to be more general than I had this support staff to help me evaluate this goal. Now you're just talking in general, these are the people that can give me support. So just go ahead and say that what the Bureau gives you. They give you office space, rooms for conferences, and then you can talk about that maybe they give you access to administration or IT staff. And what do they give you? I know a lot of you have cell phones that are provided to you by the Bureau, or maybe iPads if you're lucky. Lenore, can we? I'm just kidding. Anyway, list those things that they provide you that are services to help you get the job done. And then again, if you don't have a data manager, you can always mention NEADART, that you have access to us to use for that purpose. If you need help in writing mandates, you could mention Karen Belly at the National Resource Center. She's a great resource for things like that. So there's lots out there that you can think to make this section bloom. Okay, so I don't know what time we have. We were going to do a little activity, but